China or the West? Who really holds the keys to Africa's future? Is it Beijing's bullet trains and billion-dollar ports, or Washington's diplomacy and dollar-backed promises? In today's shifting global chessboard, Africa has emerged not just as the most contested prize, but as a decisive player. This is the African Reset. I'm Asante. Let's break it down.
I'm Ama Asante. Let's begin by looking at the numbers. At the dawn of the 21st century, China's economic ties with Africa barely registered. Total trade sat at just $10 billion. Today, that figure has soared beyond $280 billion, representing one of the most strategic, sustained, and sweeping expansions of influence the modern world has witnessed. From the deserts of Angola to the city skylines of Nairobi, the Chinese footprint is no longer a quiet presence. It is the scaffolding of Africa's new infrastructure. The Belt and Road Initiative, China's signature global strategy, is more than just a financing scheme. It brings railways, ports, power plants, and airports. But more importantly, it brings influence. Across the continent, China is building hospitals, stadiums, schools, and thousands of scholarships for African students. In 29 countries surveyed, China is now viewed more favorably than the US or the EU, and the numbers don't lie. Chinese companies have built over 6,000 kilometers of railway in Africa. The standard gauge railway in Kenya, the electrified Addis Ababa-Djibouti line, and Nigeria's Abuja airport all tell the same story. China is not just investing in Africa's future, it's helping to construct it.
Still, the West has not exited the game. While the United States lags behind in trade volume, it retains formidable leverage through diplomatic channels, military partnerships, and multilateral financing. In 2023, President Biden traveled to Angola to announce the Lobito Corridor, a $3 billion rail line stretching into Zambia and the DRC. It was a clear message. The US intends to compete. The European Union, too, has unveiled its Global Gateway initiative with over $150 billion pledged toward digital infrastructure, climate resilience, and clean energy. Yet critics argue that EU projects arrive slowly, weighed down by bureaucracy and conditionality. While Western efforts emphasize governance, environmental standards, and democratic values, China offers speed and scale. Nonetheless, institutions like the IMF and World Bank, dominated by Western influence, still shape the policy frameworks many African governments must follow. The question is, can that institutional legacy keep up with the boots on the ground momentum that China has unleashed? This contest isn't just about aid or trade, it's about strategic control. Africa holds the world's most vital natural resources for the 21st century: cobalt, lithium, copper, rare earths, and solar potential. China refines over 60% of the world's cobalt, much of it sourced from Congo. Meanwhile, Western firms are rushing to sign extraction and supply agreements across the continent. At stake is the green energy transition, the future of electric vehicles, and the supply chains that will power the next industrial revolution. Infrastructure is the battlefield, and minerals are the ammunition. But here's the plot twist. Africa is no longer a passive participant. Countries like Senegal, Ghana, and Kenya are engaging on their own terms. They are comparing deals, negotiating better terms, and refusing one-sided partnerships. This is no longer a Cold War-style ideological tug-of-war. It's a global auction, and Africa is holding the gavel.
Of course, rapid engagement comes with risks. The phrase debt trap diplomacy has become a popular critique of Chinese lending. Skeptics point to Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, leased for 99 years after default. In Africa, Zambia's restructuring talks with Chinese lenders sparked similar fears. Take the Democratic Republic of Congo's Sikomines deal. Copper and cobalt traded for infrastructure under unclear terms. Critics say the agreement lacks transparency and leaves Congo vulnerable, but there's another side to this story. Many African leaders are not victims of Chinese expansion, they're architects of it. They prefer Chinese efficiency over Western lectures. They want roads, not reports. The real issue isn't Chinese strategy, it's African leverage. Can we borrow without being beholden? Can we grow without giving away control?
The battleground of soft power is just as critical as railways and ports. China has opened Confucius Institutes across African capitals, introduced Mandarin in schools, and deepened media partnerships. African officials are routinely flown to Beijing for state-sponsored summits, training, and study tours. It's an influence campaign cloaked in culture and connection. Meanwhile, the U.S. has reduced its soft power footprint. Funding for Voice of America and U.S.-backed development programs has been slashed. Europe, for its part, often struggles to connect beyond formal diplomacy. In this vacuum, other players, Russia, Turkey, the UAE, are stepping in. Africa is no longer just watching world powers, it's being courted by them. In this age of multipolar diplomacy, every handshake is a headline, every ribbon cutting a declaration of alignment.
And yet, Africa is not merely reacting, it is redefining. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or AfCFTA, is the most ambitious integration project since independence. If successful, it will unite over 1.4 billion people under one market, generating a combined GDP of over $3 trillion. This internal unity is not symbolic, it's strategic. A stronger intra-African economy reduces dependency on both East and West. It gives African producers access to African markets. It creates leverage at the global negotiating table. In parallel, nations are coordinating on energy, defense, and data sovereignty. For the first time in decades, we're seeing a conscious effort to turn Africa's geographic unity into economic muscle. And that, more than any foreign investment, may define who truly owns Africa's future. Here at the African Reset, we believe the deeper question is not who wins, China or the West, but whether Africa chooses to win for itself. When Kwame Nkrumah declared the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa, he spoke to this very moment. This is Africa's test, not of loyalty to one bloc or another, but of vision, strategy, and self-respect. Can we reject dependency disguised as partnership? Can we stop accepting crumbs from both tables and build our own? The global rivalry is not inherently dangerous if Africa plays it wisely. Take what builds capacity, reject what compromises sovereignty, and above all, demand respect, not favors.
So, who's truly winning Africa's future, China or the West? The answer may not lie in Beijing or Washington, but squarely within Africa itself. The continent now stands at a rare crossroads where it can choose to no longer be shaped solely by external powers, but to actively shape its own destiny through strategy, unity, and a clear vision. This is not a simple competition of influence. It is a profound test of leadership, foresight, and self-definition. If African nations can use this global rivalry to their advantage, negotiating fairer deals, asserting their sovereignty, and strengthening intra-African cooperation, then the real winner will be Africa. Not because it chose a side, but because it chose itself. This is Asante.
And I'm Ama Asante. Until next time, thank you for being part of the Reset. If this episode gave you something to reflect on, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone passionate about Africa's path forward. Join the conversation in the comments. Should Africa lean toward China, pivot back to the West, or forge its own bold Pan-African future? Your voice matters here. Stay informed, stay empowered, and remember, Africa's story isn't about who invests in us, but how we choose to invest in ourselves.